All right, here's where things get a little interesting to think about. And a lot of what we're going to be discussing coming up is kind of borderline ethical or not. Um, it's going to depend on your views and where you decide that, hey, this is not something our species should be messing around with or not. But it is still fun to think about, and there's some interesting things because of how much we know about genetic disorders, how we can treat them, and how we can identify them, and what we can do about them. It's kind of interesting. So first off is identification of these. So if you do have a genetic disorder, how do we know you have this and when do we know you have this? The first thing we can look at is karyotyping, which we can actually do before you're actually born. We can go uh, in utero intravenously and take out a sample of your DNA, look at it, and actually look at your chromosomes and get you a picture of them. And that's what we call karyotyping. It's the way we just kind of look at your chromosomes, and if there's any abnormalities in those chromosomes, we can identify them and prep your parents for your birth, thinking that, hey, you might have this disorder. So process of karyotyping is a little in-depth, but you can go through the steps right there if you want. It's not really going to be on any of your tests or anything. It's just kind of an interesting thing to do. Basically, we're going to pull out some of your DNA, look at it, and determine, make a picture of all your chromosomes and determine if there's any abnormalities that we can see. So here's a karyotype, or a picture of all your chromosomes. This one, I believe, is normal. It looks pretty normal to me. You can see this is a female because it has two X chromosomes as opposed to two Y chromosomes. You can see it does not have Down syndrome because we only have two 21 chromosomes. So that's a karyotype. Here we have a female because again we have two X chromosomes. And we actually have Down syndrome here because we have three 21 chromosomes and we should only have two. Because remember, Down syndrome is also called trisomy 21. So that's pretty interesting. The next thing we want to look at is gene therapy, and you can read about it in your book a little more than I'm going to go into, but basically in the future this technology is going to let doctors treat disorders by inserting a gene into the patient's cell instead of using drugs or surgery. It's kind of interesting. Basically it's what it sounds like. I mean, if you have a disorder, why don't I just go in and change your gene and fix it? Technically, in the future, the technology is leading in that direction. So if you do have trisomy 21, I can go in and I can get rid of that extra chromosome, and you'll be not having Down syndrome anymore. Problem is that I have to do that early on, before you're born, to at least train your cells in how to do it. It's kind of interesting. What I want you to do is I want you to type a page of your thoughts. And this is kind of a controversial topic with gene therapy. So if you were having a child, so a parent, assume that you're going to be a parent. Most of you are probably going to be a parent at some point in your life. What are some advantages and disadvantages of testing prenatally for genetic disorders? Why would you want to karyotype? And do you think it's going to lead to an increase in abortion? I can tell you right now that it does. You're having a if you're having a child and I go in and I say, hey, your child is going to have Down syndrome, a lot of parents are going to take the abortion route and terminate that pregnancy, sadly. I I don't know what your thoughts are, but as a Catholic church, we don't believe in abortion in any sense of the word, but it does happen and it is legal. I don't know. That's what I'm doing is I'm asking what your thoughts on that are. And do you think gene therapy is even an ethical approach? I mean, do you think it's ethical if, like, okay, your child has Down syndrome, he's not born yet. If I go in there and correct it, is that an ethical thing to do? What about cystic fibrosis? can I go in there and correct it? What if you didn't want a child with blue eyes and you wanted green eyes instead? Should I go in and correct that before he's born? Um, there's a lot of different ways to take that. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that. So if you could type a page of your thoughts, double space it. It really doesn't necessarily have to be a whole page as long as you have some thoughts that you'd like to share with it. I thought it would be an interesting topic to write about.